Today, my work is largely built on doing what has been called cult deprogramming, or I would call it cult intervention work. That is, families retain me to do an intervention, much like a drug or an alcohol intervention, with the family to get someone out of a destructive cult. That is a large part of my work. I also do expert testimony in court cases. I've done quite a bit of expert testimony over the years, beginning in the early 90s, and I lecture at the college and university level. I've lectured at more than 30 colleges and universities and testified as an expert in more than 10 states, including United States federal court. The Cult Education Institute is an online library that was first launched in 1996. It was originally called rickross.com, but when the rapper Rick Ross became much more well-known than the cult expert Rick Ross, I decided to change the domain name entry point to the culteducation.com site. It is a very large database today that has taken almost 20 years to build, and it includes thousands of articles divided into hundreds of subsections. There is a large message board where there are more than 120,000 entries from former cult members and affected families that is available to the public. There is a virtual library in association with Amazon.com where people can get books about destructive cults or about particular topics of interest related to cults. And there is a links page with additional resources made available. So the Cult Education Institute is a 501c3 educational nonprofit library that is online, available free to the public, and is a member of the American and New Jersey Library Associations. Families and individuals benefit from having the Cult Education Institute online because when we search for information about controversial groups and movements, some that have been called cults, it's convenient to have such a large database where you can go through information, search names, find the kind of background educational material you might need to make a choice as to whether or not to participate in a particular group or program. And I think having that resource there for individuals that might be considering involvement with a certain group or program, or for families who are affected by a loved one who has been recruited into a group or program that is controversial, is a very important resource. And people use the Cult Education Institute database for research every day. Thousands of people use that database. I recently completed a book, Cults Inside Out, How People Get In and Can Get Out. This is the English version of the book. It's 584 pages. There are 1,200 plus footnotes with research. There's an 18-page bibliography and a 15-page index to make it easy to find a topic in the book. The book has also been translated into Chinese, into complex Chinese, which is now available throughout mainland China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. So what the book includes is a compendium of information about destructive cults, beginning with the history of modern cults, which is very important because many people, when you say Jonestown or you say Aum Shinrikyo or whatever, some group from the 70s, the 80s, or 90s, they haven't heard of that group, young people, and they don't know what happened with that particular group, no matter how horrific the tragedy historically may have been. So what Cults Inside Out starts from the beginning to do is it chronicles the history of modern cults beginning with Charles Manson, moving forward to today. And it breaks it down into large groups, smaller groups, family cults, and so on. The book also offers in one chapter a definition of a destructive cult, or if you will, a nucleus for a definition. And then there is a chapter on cult brainwashing that explains that synthesis of coercive persuasion and influence techniques that people in popular culture now call cult brainwashing or have called brainwashing. And then there is an explanation of how the intervention process works and actual case vignettes so that people can see it in real time, how interventions are done in an array of groups with different beliefs, different philosophies, and so on. And finally, a chapter about recovery, how people put the pieces together after a destructive cult experience and move on with their lives. I think people can benefit from the book Cults Inside Out in many ways. First of all, families who are struggling with a situation involving a group that has been called a cult can benefit from the chapters on assessment, coping strategies, and intervention. And then they can weigh their options. I think individuals who have left a destructive cult can benefit from the chapters on defining a destructive cult and cult brainwashing so that they can unravel their experience and contextualize it. Many people that have read the book have said, I benefited from hearing the voices of other people affected by the phenomenon. And I was able to see I was not alone, and that there are other people out there that have gone through what I have gone through and recovered. And I think people particularly benefit from the chapter on recovery, which includes the accounts of people that have recovered and how they've done it, so that it gives people leaving a destructive cult a sense of hope, that there is life after this experience and that I can recover and move on.